Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. Just over a week on from the end of our season officially. A very long season, difficult season, challenging season in many ways, some of it with you as Chief Executive, some of it not. How do you reflect on the past 12 months all in all?
Yeah, it's been a real 12 months, for the club. If we take ourselves back to May 2020, the height of the pandemic, not knowing whether we were going to resume the season or not, in the end we did. A lot has happened, a lot of water has gone under the bridge, and the club's been through a season that we probably would like to forget in some ways, but we've got through it. That's the main thing. We've got through it financially and we've got through it literally. The targets of the season and what we intended to achieve changed dramatically as we went on. We went from being hopeful of something better to being hopeful of our survival in the division. But the reality is, we got there in the end, and that was crucial for us. We had to make a lot of changes, we had to do a lot of work in the window in January. But as the season goes, it's not one I'll remember with any great deal of fondness, if I'm honest. But there have been some quite nice moments during it as well. Nonetheless, Mark and Conor's reign in charge of the first team, there were some special moments in that, and some moments that will live with me forever.
Yeah, you mentioned finances there. The financial impact of the pandemic as a whole has been very well documented. What has that meant for Bradford City, and where are we at currently in terms of finances, I guess?
Well, it's been hugely impactful. This football club's probably washed down the drain over £1 million in revenue that we'll never get back. Matches, commercial revenue, to say the least. I always pick out the Bolton fixture, which at the time was a 6-pointer for both sides, and there was 150 people in the stadium. That would have been 20,000 plus. What I would say is, without the sponsors, partners and supporters, there would be no Bradford City left. We saw the iFollow figures the other day up, over 400,000 in net profit on that, which has put a dent into the losses. But sadly, because of where we're at with society, it is a dent, and it's created some challenges. We've got through. I said we would, by hook or by crook, and we've had to be a little bit inventive and innovative to do that, but we've got there, and that shows that this football club is sustainable, and that gives us real promise going forward. We haven't sold a season ticket yet, and we've still got a little bit of money in the bank to take us through for another couple of months or so. So once we get on sale with season tickets, we should restart our, if you like, cash flow position, and we're in a good place. We're in an okay place to put a competitive budget together for next season, which we've done. And we're investing where we can to make this football club better.
The past week or two in themselves have been pretty non-stop, despite there being no football. There seems to be a lot going on behind the scenes. You talk a lot about plates spinning. Is that the case here again?
Yeah, I think there's plates spinning all over the place. We've got the stadium is obviously big on my agenda in terms of improving Valley Parade as a venue, and you can see some of the work that's going on behind us, and that will continue into the summer in the years ahead. But the plate's spinning largely in the football department. That's where that's in my opinion our most underperforming department in this club, and next season it cannot underperform. It's simple as that. So there is work going on. We'll have a new manager in the dugout, which is now well documented in terms of it will no longer be Mark and Conor, and there will be new players arriving at the club and some new backroom staff as well to give us a real lift, and we're going to hit the ground running in pre-season, that's for sure.
We'll get onto that a little bit later, the football side of things, but you speak a lot again about improving Valley Parade and the infrastructure of the stadium. Again, there's stuff going on currently that we can see behind us. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, I think customer experience is really important, and it's been, in my opinion, left on the shelf for too long. I've talked about the drink situation, the food situation, the beverage situation, if you like. Food and drink not good enough, experience not good enough, seats that are broken, seats that are actually more white and brown than claret and amber, or yellow at best. And there's a lack of a sense of pride that we need to put back into this place, which is what I'm working on. But as I've touched on there, we've got a tough financial budget, so whatever we do, I have to innovate to make that happen, and I've got a very good commercial team behind me, so we're doing that. And the agreement that we have with Alderdale, the seating company, is fantastic. It allows us to make progress on the seats, and we will get there in the end. It's a big old place, but it doesn't really impact on us from a cash position, which is crucial, because what you're looking at is probably a £6-figure, £250,000 job and we haven't got £250,000 to do the job. But I don't like can't, I like to can, so we'll find a way. And you know, when supporters come back, and I've just been out of a meeting this morning about the prices of food and drink that are going to be here next season, and you know, we'll be serving pints that are cold, that are fresh, and that they're affordable, and hopefully people will buy into that. And you know, we're working on a Fanzone concept, preferably to the rear of the Kop. I don't know how that's going to work out just yet, but weather-wise, I don't know what happened to the summer, but you know, we'd like to think by next year that'll be in place. That's certainly high on the agenda for the commercial team. And like I said, and we've got some great things coming down the line. You know, we've got some really big partnerships to announce. You know, the impact of a few new member of staffs is being felt internally. But you know, like I say, it counts for very little if the on-field isn't good enough. So it's about improving all areas. But for me, we're not good enough off the field. And once we get that right and on the field, we get some momentum. But you know, the least a supporter expects when they walk through the door is a decent day out, and we're going to try and sort that.
Football-wise, you mentioned Mark Truman and Conor Sellers at the very top. The job that they did when they came in, we made, you know, the announcement last week that they would no longer be managing the side, but they have been offered opportunities to stay within the club. What more can you tell us about that? Have things progressed?
Yeah, they are progressing. Mark has a clear offer in terms of an area that he will take up. I'm constantly talking to Conor. We're trying to get something sorted with them both. I'd like to think by the end of this month, both of those guys will know exactly where they stand. The benefit is that, and the real positive for me, is that they both want to stay, which tells you a little bit about what they think of where we're going with the football club. If they didn't, it would be probably a good opportunity for them to get out. But no, they'll both be in and amongst it, and you know, the conversations are ongoing, but they're positive, and I'm not concerned that they're going to leave at this stage or anything like that, which is great because we don't want them to.
That brings us on to the new man who will come in and take over. We mentioned in the statement that we weren't welcoming applicants for the new role. Again, have things progressed? What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I can't say a great deal more, to be honest with you, but we're still not looking for any applicants. I'm pretty comfortable with the position we're in terms of the new person coming in, and work is ongoing. But there's, you know, nothing to concern ourselves about, in my opinion. And when we can, we'll make it clear where we're going.
Released and retained list as well, 9 gone and 4 offered new contracts. Again, any updates on those? How was talks progressing with those lads?
Yeah, we have got a couple of those signed now, and that'll be revealed in due course. We are progressing with those talks. Obviously the guys that have left us, wish them the best. You know, it's never an easy situation, particularly when you don't have a manager on the ground, if you like. But you know, most of them, we had a good conversation, and I wish them well. You know, they've done their best, they've served the club, and some of them have put a real shift in this season to get us out of trouble.
Okay, last week we invited supporters to ask their questions, send them in via email. Thank you to everybody who's done so. Obviously received a large volume of them, and it would have been difficult to get through all of them, but we have a few that we're going to ask you now and get through. First one is from Mark, who says, what are City going to do differently going into the summer with another new manager and another rebuilding job? What lessons have been learned, and will the next manager be given the time needed to build a culture at the club?
Well, I've talked a lot about building culture. When we say doing things differently, I think we are doing things quite differently already. You know, obviously I've had the benefit of seeing that behind the scenes, supporters not so much inside the ground. You know, we've made staffing changes, certainly in the recruitment area. We had no recruitment staff a couple of years ago. After Greg Abbott left the club, there was no one replaced in that role, so that recruitment department just shut down, for want of a better phrase. We had no scouts. We had one analyst, we've now got 2. So there's a great deal of infrastructure behind the football department that will bear fruit. In terms of giving a manager time, for sure, you know, you want every manager to be successful, but it's also very important that when you need to make a decision, you make it. You know, and let's be right about that. Structure for structure's sake, and you know, stability for stability's sake is no good if it don't work. Because if you can have a vision, but if you ain't got a plan, it's a dream, right? So you know, and that for me is, I'm quite honest about that. I'm not someone who likes to let things drift, and you know, I do feel, and you know, Mark and Conor are aware of this, I didn't feel like they could take us any further next season, and we've been very honest about that. So for me to sit on that thought, I would be doing a disservice to the football club. But you can see in terms of doing things differently, Mark and Conor staying in the building, I've challenged them to become the next Bradford City manager, one of them or both of them, so that's up to them. But they've got an opportunity, and I think that's different in itself. This club's not the same club it was 18 months ago, 2 years ago, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and we are trying to make some positive steps to change our on-field success. It's not like we're sat here, no one's happy with finishing 15th in League Two. In fact, it's an embarrassment in my opinion. So I get that, but it'd be wrong of me if I was sat on my hands about it, and I don't think we are.
Johnny leads on from that. He says, over the years we've changed manager quite a lot and invested unsuccessfully in the squad. How will we support the new manager behind the scenes to enable him to maximise and improve our current playing abilities? Can we invest more in coaches and analysts as well as players?
Well, I think I've kind of answered some of that. I think if you talk about investment in a squad, that depends how you define investment. Six-figure transfer sums for players that aren't good enough for League Two. I'm not sure we've done any of that. In my time as chief executive, we've made 4 cash signings, and I think there is some asset material in that. One of them we actually sold and essentially recouped the money that we bought him for. So that in itself sums up the point. I think investment, it can be strung in many ways. We'll be investing in the manager. That's the whole. There is investment in the football department. If you don't put anything in, you're probably not going to get anything out. But it has to be controlled investment, or you become a loss-making football club and you don't have a sustainable future. And regardless of who owns your football club, no matter who you are, if the club is not sustainable, at some point someone's going to pick up the ticket, and it's a problem. And we don't want to. I certainly don't want to run Bradford City in that way. So we won't. But in terms of investment in the back room, I've been banging on about that for 3 months. So there's no worries on that. There will be some movement. But you're right. He's right. We need to be better in that area. I get that.
Will the club be using in-house and or third-party data analytics to help identify transfer targets in the summer? Of course, character is key too, but use of data can prove value for money if used properly, or is it simply out of budget? That's from Tom.
No, we already do. We already do. We put some investment into that in December. We purchased some software that we've not had before. In terms of analytics, I myself have seen every single stat that's connected to our target list for the summer. So, and to the very core detail of how far that guy's run all season, how many crosses in the box. So I'd say we're going to as far as we can afford to go on it, which is further than we've gone in the past. So it's a positive step forward in my point. But you're right, you've got to make the use of every resource you can to get the best product on the grass.
Paul says, hi Ryan, I was interested to read your recent comments about fitness and conditioning of players. This is what we spoke about earlier this season. How do you feel this area needs improvement, and how will it be achieved?
They need to be fitter. It'll be achieved by putting more effort and energy into it. We'll make a sports science hire, which we've done, and there'll be a lot more energy around our GPS tracking. We'll have live tracking during games, but our pre-season will be structured better. Let's be honest, the pandemic didn't help last season. This pre-season was 6-7 weeks long, so for all the best will in the world, your plans are going out the window a little bit. It's not an excuse, but it's a fact. This season we don't have that. We've got a plan. That plan's been in place for some time, and everyone's complicit in it.
A question asked quite a lot by various different people. If no manager is in the building currently, who made the decisions on contracts and releases? Was it the new man behind the scenes?
Yes. Simple as that, yeah.
Why did you not leave the original terms of Mark Trueman and Conor Sellers' management in place until the end of the season, i.e. as joint interim managers? To change after a couple of months was potentially a train crash waiting to happen, particularly if the playoffs weren't achieved. That's from Chris.
I don't think it was a train crash waiting to happen. From a financial perspective, those guys were not earning, shall we say, without discrediting them, manager salaries when they took the job. They put their families through a great deal of torture, I imagine, to help us get out of trouble. And we wanted to show them some loyalty from our side, which hasn't been the case in the past. People have come in, probably been hung out a little bit and let go. So it's a small price to pay, any increase in a contract for what would have cost this club a National League. National League football here would have required 7-figure investment to keep the lights on. And it would have been an mitigating disaster on many levels. So, what it also did, and I was mindful of this at the time, and so were Mark and Conor, was should the day come where we do take them out of the dugout as such, we have an opportunity to renegotiate that and put them in other roles, which we're doing. So the risk for the club was not there, and I felt, and Stefan felt strongly that they deserved some loyalty from us and some security for their families, and we've given them that. And I'd do it I'd do it over and over again. So I take the point. Hindsight's wonderful, by the way, because I would imagine if I did a poll back in March, there would have been a lot of people saying, "Come on, we've got to give these guys a shot." And it wasn't about that, but it was a decision we took over a matter of weeks, and one that we're very comfortable with. I don't ever think that was a mistake, and if it was a mistake, it wasn't a bad one, because I think they did a real job in helping us get out of trouble.
You mentioned Stefan Rupp. Next question from Toby is about him. What is his status as owner? It's clear that he still wants nothing to do with the every week running of the club, let alone every day. He only invests enough to keep the lights on. Where does this end?
Right. Well, his status is the owner. His status hasn't changed. I wouldn't agree with that he's not interested in running the club, because we speak nearly every day. So if he deserves an Oscar if he's not interested, because he's fooling me. He's pretty demanding, actually. He wants the best for us, and he's given. But in the same breath, he's an owner, and we need to be clear about this. An owner puts a chief executive in a position to run the business, which he did with Julian Rhodes, and sadly the other guy before that. But the point is, I'm charged with running the business on his behalf, but we talk regularly. It's his business at the end of the day, and but the club belongs to the people, right? And but he's very interested, and if he had to put money in for the record to keep the lights on, then I'm not doing my job very well. So let's be clear about that. But he definitely invested and interested, but obviously he's been unable to fly over this season, and he hopefully will get over in the next couple of weeks, because we've got lots to talk about. But I think the restrictions in Germany on overseas travel are very tight at the moment. He's had a couple of jabs, he tells me, the German jab. So have I. But he can't get over at the moment.
Another hot topic, season tickets. Again, a lot of people asking about those. When will they be back on sale? Price changes, anything like that? Any news to report?
Yeah, we did the survey, which was very interesting, and it reported huge amount of people, virtually the entire survey, saying we should increase the prices, and we are going to make a slight increase on areas, but we will be bringing in a monthly option. So we're like a Netflix sort of Amazon Prime model, if you like. Other people available, of course, but that's where I think society is going. So we're going to follow that trend. The long-term plan for ticketing is that we would be completely automated in the ground, and you would pay monthly, and there wouldn't be a season ticket campaign, if you like. It would be very simple monthly payment. But we were going to introduce that this season, and we'll be on sale next week. And hopefully, if you do your job right, we'll have some information out this week to explain where we're going with it, so people are well prepared for it, if you like. And it's probably worth noting that we will, be honouring any arrangement from the 1920 season in terms of seat renewals. There's nothing to worry about there, but it's on the route, it's on the way for sure.
And related to that, of course, iFollow. It's been the only way for people to watch games this season. Seems to be a lot of keenness again for that to continue heading into next season. Is there anything to report on that? Yeah,
we're campaigning for it to continue, so to speak. Because we have an away following of fans. Sorry, but I don't think we cater for the people that don't like to go to away games naturally, or can't afford to go to away games. I don't think there's any option for those supporters. So we've campaigned for that with the EFL and said, let's consider it, because as one of the bigger clubs, ourselves, Bolton, Port Vale in this division, with the bigger fan bases, we kind of miss out on potential revenue, and our supporters miss out on chances to watch games, and the away ends are only so big, and we fill lots of them. So we'd like it to stay. In terms of from a COVID perspective, it would be good to have it as a backup plan should anything prevent non-restrictions, if you like, in stadiums. We don't know where we're at. We're fingers crossed we'll be all right for August, but if not, we want to have some caveats available to supporters so they can not miss out. And we're pretty confident iFollow will remain in some capacity, as in it always has done. But I think for the EFL, this is a great opportunity. They've discovered this huge market, and they need to find a way to carry it forward. And the clubs and the supporters are the vehicles for that.
You touched on it a little bit earlier. Chris asks, what plans are in place to increase fan engagement and experience to make supporters stay at the stadium longer and spend more cash, thus generating more commercial revenue, fan zones, revamps, open bars, longer, more events, things like that?
I mean, he's touched on a lot of the things we've got plans. That's correct. I think fan engagement is very high on the priority list, and when we have our team photo next season, I want to get everyone down for like a bit of an open day, and we'll see if we can do that with COVID. But we've got to get the players and the manager closer to the supporters, because it's their team and they need to meet the people and get used to them. The access could be better. There'll be a slight change to one of the suites upstairs that allows players and supporters to mingle as well, and the plans are released about that in due course. But Fanzone is a high priority. I'd love that. Probably a pre-match more than a post-match. Post-match we might look at other things, but if there's players not in the squad or they're injured, it would be great for them to mingle with supporters and get amongst it. I think that was something the club did superbly well during its purple patch, if you like, in the mid-2010s, and it's something that can be mirrored very easily. So we're working on that. But yeah, the fan engagement side, experience, in addition to getting the on-field results improved, it's high on the agenda, for sure.
Dan asks if you have any thoughts or plans to recognise former players. I've been in the McCall suite in recent seasons and it feels like it needs refreshing. There is a lack of recognition for former players, for example, Cess Pod, 502 appearances, Ian Cooper, 443 appearances, John Hall, Bruce Stowell. Plans to recognise those kind of players who have obviously, created parts of history at this club.
Well, Dan's bang on. We haven't done enough. When I came here, we introduced the heritage number scheme, which is something from rugby, if you like, and cricket, but went down quite well. We're the only team in the Football League that does that and goes to that level of detail on what it means to have your own number at the club. And the England national team have followed on the back of it. So that tells me we've done something right from a heritage perspective. All the lounges that are mentioned, particularly the McCall and Henry Suite, I agree, tired out, worn out, lack ideas, send you to sleep, to be honest. But they've been completely ripped out. The two on the first floor, and then the top floor, we're looking at that next, in terms of how we can slightly improve the Legends Lounge and show, tell people more about our legends, because we've got loads.
Scott says, what reassurances can you give that you and the club can provide the inspiration, innovation and creativity to break the cycle of relative success followed by decline?
Well, I think what I would say on that is it's very easy to continue going the same thing. That's easy. It's a lot harder to put a stop to that and send it in the other direction. But what you need people who are willing to do that. And off the field here, I've got a team of people who are fighting tooth and nail every day to improve this football club. I'm not saying people weren't before, but we've got clear direction now, off the field. I'd like to think that there's leadership, and we need leadership in the dugout for sure, which is going to come. Football leadership, if you like, but off the field where you can make a lot of difference and change the cycle, and that's what we need to do, get off the cycle we're on. I'm very confident about that, and I suppose my direct answer to that is it requires time. And it requires a clear plan, which we have, as to how we're going to do that. Increase revenue, spend more money on the pitch. We're trying to increase all our revenue streams to do that, to get a better team, to climb the divisions. And we're not looking to climb them slow. That's, when I say it takes time, we're not looking at a 5-year plan to get out of League Two. I can assure you, a 5-year plan to get to the second tier is more what I'm interested in. But hopefully people buy into what we're doing, and I don't like to do many things like this because I think some people will say it's talk. I would say judge us by our actions, and if the actions aren't good enough, I'm sure they'll tell us. But in time, I think people will say that we're having a go here, we're having a real dig, but it's not aimless. It's not aimless, and we know what the priorities are. Unfortunately for this football club, many areas are a high priority. Read into that whatever you want, but for me, there are too many things that aren't good enough. And once we start turning that back round, we'll move forward.
A couple of interesting ones from Neil. If Mr. Sparks could change one thing in football, what would this be? And a bit more of a random one, what keeps you awake at night?
One thing I change in football, not a fan of the yellow card rule. Obviously I'm a rugby league man, people keep telling me, but I'll bring one in that I think works, the sin bin rule. You know, when you're in game and someone gets a yellow card, and we see many deliberate fouls to stop opportunities, we've been guilty of it ourselves. How does a yellow card benefit the team you're playing there and then? It doesn't. It benefits the next team or the next team after, when that guy accumulates 5 or 10 yellow cards. So I think a sin bin rule would make a real difference, and it would take many elements of the game that aren't great out, because people would really try to avoid being sent to the stands for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it would work out at. And it would have a massively detrimental impact on the game, and it would make it more exciting, because all of a sudden you'd have a 10-15 minute period where the other team's got 10 players. So I would change that. I'd change that rule, because I think it just doesn't help the team there and then.
And keeping you awake at night?
Losing football matches keeps me awake at night.
What's your 5-year plan going forward for the club? Do you have a certain identity or philosophy that you want to ingrain in the whole club from top to bottom? What is it? If so, that's from Philip.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about long-term plans, don't they? And you know, football's very short-term as well. You know, it's season to season. Our long-term ambition is to get to the Championship, and I believe this club can do that. We're so far off in so many areas, that gives me so much positivity about where we can get to. Talking about 1%ers, there's lots of them. But our plan is to make this business completely sustainable. So we have got money to invest in what we want to invest in. Obviously, I have an owner that is a wealthy man, and it's when I believe that investment from him potentially could be required to take us to the next level. But if we build a model where we are so comfortable in what we're doing and we're growing, and the sustained growth, we will climb. So you know, the plan is to completely sweat all our asset, if you like, improve every area, put more staff in key positions. You'll see a slightly bigger back room next season. We've probably got one of the smallest in the league at the moment, and ultimately our plan is to climb the league tables. And success to me would look like getting out of this division very, very quickly, and then climbing through the next one, which by the way is now full of excellent teams with big pockets. But you know, it doesn't put us off in any way. You know, I think we can take anyone on, you know, if we get there. But we've got to get the culture right, which is what I keep talking about. We're getting there on it, and then on the back of it, the personnel. But you know, we've got to get the fans close to the team and really make strides forward. So you know, the short-term plan is to get out of this division. The long-term plan is to become an established Championship club. It's what I aim for every day.
Finally, from David, realistic goals for next season. You've just touched on there, on and off the pitch. And in 12 months' time, how would you measure your own success or failure?
I don't need to answer how I would measure my own success off of, you know, in 12 months' time. Everyone knows what that will look like. If we fall way short and we're poor off the field and we're poor on it, then it's not been good enough, and I will have to look at how that's happened. But if we put everything in and we play all our cards and we fall short by a point, or we lose a playoff final or something like that, then you know, to some degree I can live with that. What kind of hurt this season is we just tripped up at the 10 metres from the finishing line, so to speak, and it's difficult to put my finger on why that happened, but you know, so that would be failure, you know, to some degree next season. But in the context of this season, it was probably a success. You know, in 12 months' time, our aims for next season is to be in a promotion fight. You know, this is Bradford City. We're not here to take part, in my opinion, and we're not here to take part in League Two. We want to get out of this division. This is a far more viable operation in the third tier of English football.
It's about all for supporter questions. Thank you very much to those who've sent them in again, and apologies if we weren't able to ask yours. Just want to finish on more generally. A final message for the supporters who have stuck with us undoubtedly over the past 12 months ahead of what is a crucial few months, as we've discussed, and a very important season for the club.
Look, just thanks for standing by us. You know, we've not given you anything particular to cheer about. I admit that, apart from in the period earlier in this year. Without the season ticket sales that became iFollow passes last season, and of course the sponsors, not one of them stepping back from us, we would be in grave trouble. So thanks very much. We appreciate that. It means a great deal, and that kind of spirit inspires people here to make this football club the best it can be. I want nothing more than a winning team and a club that makes sense financially and literally, you know, and until we get that, I won't stop it till we get it. Hopefully the supporters can see I'm an ambitious person. I know this club needs to show that ambition, that level of fight that it became so popular for and famous for 5-10 years ago now. and back in the late 90s. That's what we want to bring, and whoever stands in the dugout next season will match the culture and the level of energy and grit and determination that I believe we need to have here in every single member of staff. And that's the key. That's the core trait that we're looking for. That beyond the call of duty, extra to get to where we need to be. And it's going to take that, because we're going up against some teams that will spend more than us for sure. But that's not an issue to me. We want to put a product out there that you guys can come back to next season and be very, very happy about, and at least buy into and understand what we're trying to achieve. And that's why so much work goes into it. Nearly every day of my life, and most people here too, everyone sort of does a bit extra. And so like I say, thanks for your support, and hopefully we repay you after 3 difficult years, to say the least.
Just starting to get rained on, so it's time to go inside. But Ryan, thank you very much for your time.